Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind. Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an effective way. Boring. Politics is more complicated than that. That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh boy, my favorite show. Boring. We need to be mad. We need to be angry. We're thinking too much around here, guys. How dare you? That is so cool. That is so fun. Oh my god, dude. That's so big, dude. We gotta have a better ground game to overpower the corporate media structure and the propaganda. I'm right on the polling. I'm right on that. That's undisputed in my mind. That's undisputed in my mind.
The top of the morning.
Politics is more complicated.
Top of the morning.
Waging political capital in an effective way.
Top of the morning.
Boring.
Top of the morning. Okay.
Politics is more complicated.
I need to
than
leave
that.
a message.
That
If
is so
my
cool.
mic
That is
goes
so fun.
robot, tell me, please. Here you go. Pin message. If my mic goes robot, please tell me.
Oh boy, my favorite show.
You never know when it's gonna happen. Chat disabled.
Boring. We need to
No,
be
we
mad.
can't
We
have
need to
that.
be
We can't have
angry.
the
We're
chat
thinking too
disabled
much
for
around here,
this
guys.
takedown of small d. The
How
hell?
dare you?
We gotta have full chat.
That
Spencer,
is so
you
cool.
king.
That is so fun.
You king. Thank you. Spencer,
Oh my
again,
god, dude.
every
That's
day,
so big,
coming back
dude.
with the big dollars. Spencer,
We gotta
$5
have a better
super
ground
chat.
game to overpower
Spencer
the corporate media
has bought
structure
me
and the propaganda.
so many coffees. So many coffees.
I'm right on the
and
polling.
I thank him for that. Makes my day much better.
I'm right on that. That's undisputed.
Maybe my
in
microphone
mind.
goes weird because I constantly hit. Whenever I do something on my
undisputed in my
computer, I hit my wire with my arm because it's right below me.
Politics is more complicated than that. Waging political capital in an
Maybe I gotta
effective
get
way.
my wireless keyboard out.
Boring.
Look at this guy. So I can control it
Politics
through
is more
my
complicated than that.
lap. Wow, look at all
That
these
is so
viewers
cool.
coming in to
That
watch
is
me
so
take down
fun.
Destiny. Wow, welcome. Drop a like. Drop a like. He's over. He's done. He's done so. There's no chance. I just unplugged the batteries in this. Why
Oh
do I?
boy, my favorite show.
Destiny is done so.
Boring.
Once I
We
plug
need
this
to be
in,
mad. We
baby.
need to be angry. We're thinking
Destiny.
too much around here, guys.
It's over.
How dare you?
Rain 12 pack, 18 bucks on Amazon. Okay. Even. Good evening. Good evening.
That is so cool. That is so fun.
Okay,
Oh
taking
my
the
God,
USB
dude.
out because
That's
apparently
so
the PC
big,
needs to be
dude.
restarted to attach this device, and I'm sorry, I am not
We
restarting.
gotta have a better
I'm
ground
not
game to
restarting the
overpower the
PC.
corporate media
I'm not gonna
structure
do
and the
that.
propaganda.
This guy. All right, let's talk about
right on the
uncharitability
polling.
and hypocrisy.
I'm right on that. That's undisputed
How do I
in my
stop
mind.
this? Okay, how is everybody doing on this fine evening? I hope everybody's doing great. Let me put up a post to Twitter really quick that we are doing this, so people know that we're doing this. Should I put it on Twitter? Yeah, I'll put it on Twitter, just in case. Or I'll put it on my other Discord for the Tom McDonald fans. Here, at everyone, come watch me take down Destiny. Come watch take down Destiny. Send. Everybody's doing good though. You want to hear your thoughts on credit sometime? Isn't the US the only country that uses... Wait, am I wrong about this? Are credit scores in other countries? Does anybody live in a different country? Isn't it different? I know the credit score that if you get like a certain credit score in the US, I know it doesn't transfer to a different country, but do like European countries have credit scores? I don't think they do. Canada does. The credit score predicts your likelihood you can meet financial tasks or obligations. So there's that one dumb tweet about it. I'm not going to talk about it because we got to talk about this guy. We got to do this. Oh yes. Oh no. Here you go. Where's the chat at? Where's the chat? There it is. My thoughts on credit. Okay, let me X this out. What speed should we go? 1.25. All right. How many people are tuning in? 34 so far? Oh, yes. Look, drop likes, please. Drop likes. I'm back to do a stream. Please. Oh, 39. You're all here to watch me take down Destiny. Thank you for joining me. Please drop the like. Get above 20. We're at 39 viewers. Let's get above 20 likes. And we can begin this ferocious takedown of the god himself, Destiny. He's going to die. Intellectually, of course. In Descenders. Do you know what game Descenders is? If not, you got to play it. 23 likes. All right, Michael Jordan. Good. We can get going. So. Okay. China has social credit. Well, social credit is different from a credit score. Social credit is like approval from the government. A credit score is like a social credit score for credit, though, because your credit score is showing how likely you can pay back something. So imagine the Chinese social credit is like our credit scores, but for every aspect of life. It's not just like, hey, can you get this loan? It's, hey, can you go into this part of town? Or can you go into this business? Like the stream, support your local progressive organizer. Hey, I've been grinding. You would never be able to get anything. If I was in China, I'd probably just be a yes man, to be honest. Wouldn't you? If you were forced to live in an authoritarian regime. What else would you do? What fight? What else? What's your other option? You know what? I would fight once they take away the games. Once they come for the gamers, bro, they better hope we don't get AI robot armies, because all the gamers are going to hack all their Iron Man clones, and all the gamers are going to take over through their sick quick scoping when they take over all the drones. Docking Mule, I remember you. Tristan, remember you. Describing segregation? No, there was no credit score for segregation. There was no score for that. There was just white or black. Thank you for 5, Mark. Thank you so much for 5. Mark, you have also donated before in other ways. Thank you very much. Live in the woods. No, social credit is different though. I mean, you probably would have a lower social credit score, I assume, if you're a minority in China than if you're a majority. All right. Thank you for dropping all these likes. Thank you so much for the 2 super chats. We have to get started because I got to get off at like 9 something, a little bit after 9. All right. So I'm here to offer my good faith criticism on how Destiny approaches people on the left. There is some big bad spots that he has when discussing these topics, and I think he can fix it in a way that more people can actually be receptive to.
This guy has a second channel where he drives expensive cars? Wait, no way. Link me. No shot. Link or ban. After so many vids about climate change, you're gonna upload videos about supercars. Am I the only one who sees the hypocrisy? Do as I sound as I do. Don't be ignorant. The 6 biggest cruise ships, produce more emissions than every car on the road.
My camera's
Focus your
lagging.
account.
Important updates are available. Oh my god, yes, important updates for my PC. Yes, perfect timing. Yes, please, more. I want more notifications. Please, perfect time for it. Perfect time for it. Thank you, computer. Perfect time to take a dump. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Shout out to my computer. Shout out to my computer. Thank you, bro. All right. Are you ready, computer? Jesus. To be very clear, I don't like second thoughts content. I'm not a LARPy socialist. Actually, wait. I have to. Okay, I'm trying to not be inflammatory for my new generation of my channel. For the new generation of my channel. Is my mic still bad? Is my mic okay? Is it still working? Are we okay? Yes? Give me a yes, please. Please say yes. Please say yes. My microphone is not a robot. Okay. Okay. All right. Hopefully we get no more distractions. Second thought. I do not like second thoughts content. I don't think it makes any pragmatic sense. I don't think anything they say operates in the realm of reality, of political reality. Destiny is going to critique second thought. Destiny hates far lefties, which second thought is. I want to come in the middle here. I want to come in the middle. I want to come in right between them. And I want to make sure that Destiny's criticisms are crafted in a way that actually work. Because I went through this before. I listened to it on my commute to my internship. And Destiny, dude, oh my God. His rhetorical ability here, his hypocrisy, and how he deals with second thought. We have to call it out, baby. Let's go. Good laugh.
Believe it or not, the Republicans are not the only major right-wing political party in America. Of course, there are smaller conservative groups like the Libertarian Party.
It's the whole in Europe. All the political dichotomy exists between left and right, and there are so many healthy, strong, powerful left-leaning, not left-leaning, but leftist governments. In the Labour Party in the UK is a shining example of socialism. The Swedish Social Democrats are the most socialist government, like all the socialisms, all.
It is a very cringe take to say like, oh, Bernie Sanders, he'd be a moderate in a different country. Bernie Sanders would be far left in a different country. So second thought's take here is dumb, but Destiny's take here is pretty dumb as well. Of course, there are not huge, super leftist parties in these countries, but you know what we consider to be like socially democratic in America, they have a lot of those things in European countries that are like guaranteed to them, like childcare. Their child poverty rate is like 1/4 of what it is in the U.S. Their overall relative poverty rate in Europe is like one in most of the good European countries, not like Poland or Hungary, but you know, is like 1/4 of what it is in America. Our poverty rate is a lot higher. We don't have universal healthcare. They do, as a given. The conservative parties over there, if they took away universal healthcare, they would suffer great political consequence. That is all real. So both of them are kind of dumb.
Across Europe, but in America, we have two evil right-wing parties.
And the Constitution Party, but for all intents and purposes...
Never mind the fact that the UK literally just ejected itself from the fucking not the Soviet Union, from the European Union over immigration, but...
And contrary to what you've probably heard your whole life, the Democratic Party might as well join them on that list. How else could we categorize a party that blocks movement to the left, passively accepts movement to the right, and sometimes even embraces conservatism outright? In this episode, we're looking at how the Democrat...
I like the flashing. I hate this guy so much. I actually hate this guy. He is one of the
stuff I want to get to, I'm pretty sure, is in the second half of this takedown of second thought of Destiny's video, but I'm gonna go through the entire thing because I can probably find things throughout it.
I'm a video essayist, so I'm just reading you facts.
Even embraces conservatism out.
I like how his example of embracing conservatism is Biden administration increases border deportations and prosecutions to deter migration. Because every time a Democratic president rolls around, you get this huge influx of people that think that they can legally migrate to the country, which maybe some can, maybe some can't, or whatever, to try to pretend like the Democrats and the Republicans have the same stance on migration, right? One party tried to give us DACA and the other party tried to take it away. Like, how are you going to pretend at all like both sides are the same on this? It is so minor of Destiny to debate him. This type of guy will never, ever, ever talk to somebody who disagrees with him. This is the type of guy that exclusively does video essay content and then circle tricks with a whole bunch of other dipshit lefties and will never challenge his opinions ever. All of his fucking videos are dog shit. Are you gonna fact check everything like you did with Rogan? I'm too lazy to do that, but like even in this guy's videos, there's not even usually stuff to fact check because it's usually just like It's usually just like broad conspiratorial claims with like no actual data. Like he doesn't actually like cite polls or cite studies or cite data. He just like links like a fucking article and is like, oh yeah, so the Democrats are all taking money from.
This is what I stopped doing, what Destiny is critiquing when I was a Jimmy Dore, Kyle Kalinske fan. As I went through and deleted every single video on my channel, I revisited some of what I used to say. And all of my rhetoric used to be like, look at my colors changing on my camera because I have a bad webcam. Look at that. I'm like pale now, but if I move my hands and let the blue come in from behind me, it color corrects and makes me more tan. But anyway, everything I said was the two corrupt parties are the same. The elites are coming for us. It was all this vague populism that didn't really mean anything. And I agree with Destiny on those takes. But what I don't agree with Destiny on is when it comes to a lot of the left's the left's frustrations with the entire like process, which we're gonna get to later. Like, for example, Bernie Sanders supporters feeling a little bit crappy after the Democratic primaries. There is real concrete evidence for why people who are more left can be sort of upset about how like a Bernie Sanders was treated. I call it politics, which we'll get to then. But there is some concrete facts that Destiny doesn't even acknowledge later.
Fucking corporate donors, and they move us further and further to the right. And Democrats actually the same as Republicans because they agree on like some things like Israel. They're the same thing, right? Like this is all of this guy's videos are like this. There's not even like a debunking or fact check to do. It's just broad conspiracies asserted with zero fucking evidence that like weave together to make a compelling story for a fucking tanky to jerk off to.
Right. In this episode, we're looking at how the Democratic Party takes advantage of the current electoral system to stop, to the best of its ability, the progress of left-wing politics and how it even actively promotes a right-wing agenda. We're talking about something called the ratchet effect. If you've been following this channel for a while, you've probably already heard me talk.
Oh, and on that point, when it comes to a policy perspective, the idea that Democrats are purposely not getting anything done and they are using Republicans as fake opposition simply isn't true. Right now, we are trying to make a very good, but a baseline investment into infrastructure and human infrastructure. And guess what Republicans are doing right now? They are not being fake resistance. They are refusing to raise the debt limit. They are going to make our country go into a government shutdown. Republicans do not allow progress to happen. You can say Democrats should fight harder. They should call out Republicans more. Biden should go to a bunch of towns across Pennsylvania and say, build back better. Republicans don't want to build your roads. I want to build your roads. You can make that criticism. But to say that, Republicans and Democrats are just like the same party that have the same interests, they're all serving the corporations isn't true. Even when it comes to different corporations, their interests are different. Do you think Jeff Bezos, who is the richest man in America, do you think Jeff Bezos does not want infrastructure spending? Capitalists know that spending like what's happening right now is necessary for capitalism to survive. People need to be educated. People need to have roads. People need to have bridges. That's why Amazon signed on to the Joe Biden presidency. Radical populism from the far left or far right is destabilizing for companies. So if you really want to look at the incentive process for how corporations are doing political donations and everything, there is a lot to criticize. But I just hate it, dude, when they say they're both the same party.
About the absurdly stunted American political landscape. If you're new here, the basic idea is this. American politics lean heavily to the right. On one side of the aisle, the Republican Party espouses alarmingly far-right politics, more extreme in their nature than even some notable far-right parties in European politics, like the National Rally in France and UKIP in the UK. Often left out of the story, though, is that the Democratic Party...
I don't know if the... I would have to dig in to go back to Marie Le Pen shit. I don't know if the mainstream Republican narrative is necessarily as far right as like Marie Le Pen's party in France. I don't know if that's
Le Pen. So if you would have asked me this question a couple years ago, I would say Le Pen's party was worse than Republicans, because her party in France is strictly an ultra-nationalist party. They are very open about that. And that's what would be in America. We would have that if we had 4 different parties and Trump had his own little party, but we don't. Republicans were not as bad, but they're getting close. But they're never going to have the same rhetoric as Le Pen, I don't think. Is anybody from France that can give their own little piece on that?
Or you can. I would have to go through and like dig through their policy positions or whatever. But okay, the National Front is
policy positions is a little bit wrong. You can't look at it from policy positions. A lot about politics is theater. It's how you present yourself. It's what your party advocates for. On the optical level, it's not going to be on paper. Liz Cheney is further to the right of Josh Hawley, but who is closer to an ultranationalist? Who is an ultranationalist or a populist fascist type? Josh Hawley.
Pretty insane. Yeah.
Is also on the right.
Your
Perhaps not
conduct
by
as a
US
politician is much more than what's on paper. I think that's pretty obvious.
standards, but in the range of political ideologies, both parties are devoted to neoliberalism and the ideology's strict adherence to free international trade, austerity, and highly privatized economies. This means that at the end of the day,
Well, hold on. I'm trying to think if even Republicans believe in austerity because Trump spent like a motherfucker. But I guess you could argue that any cut to like a welfare program is austerity. But austerity is like first of all, I think it's usually a term Europeans use more. Although you could
Wait, did Second Thought say that both parties are for austerity measures?
arguably apply to the American system. Like, damn, Republicans spend like fucking crazy. But I guess you could argue that austerity, even if you're spending like crazy, just means you're threatening to cut private programs, I guess. Or I'm sorry, like publicly funded programs maybe. But
Democrats and Republicans disagree on relatively few things, and most of those things are minor aesthetic differences or the usual hot-button culture war topics.
oh, I love that. Like, this is what I like about being a white guy. Is that for all the shit that like they do disagree on, like who the fuck cares? Like who cares about trans people? Or who cares about like DACA? Like, bro, I'm white. I'm like naturally like a citizen. Like, I don't have to worry about shit like that. It doesn't affect me. There's like minor like play issues. I care about really important things. Like how do people like look at the term socialism in U.S. politics? Or like that's like ugh. I don't think austerity is used much at all today. Really? I feel like when I hear austerity, I feel like it's usually used in European context. We never use the word austerity in the US. I would be surprised if like more than 2% of Americans knew what is austerity. I think austerity generally refers to tightening government budgets by cutting like social spending. I think generally. But we
Okay, so you're having a conversation if Bernie would be center left in Europe. It depends on the issue. Because if you're in a different political system, maybe Bernie Sanders wouldn't be a social democrat or a democratic socialist. Maybe he'd be an out leftist. And I know my data's cutting out for the stream, but you'll be back in a second, I'm pretty sure. It says reconnecting. You could say F's in chat. But when it comes to Bernie Sanders, if you put him in a different country with his current positions, he might be center left. He might say in Canada, well, he'd be in the NDP. He'd be, a new Democrat. So I don't know, dude. They're pretty far left. They're considered really far left in Canada. I don't know.
never use this
He is a
word.
leftist. If you put Cory Bush in a different country, she's probably more in the center. Or like, I don't know, somebody else who is less like out as like, I'm a leftist, but Bernie Sanders, he's pretty left, man.
In the U.S. Difficult economic conditions created by government measures to reduce public expenditure. Yeah. So like in the U.S., when we say like fiscal responsibility, maybe that's like an austerity like utterance kind of. Yeah.
But stopping our analysis there ignores the special role Democrats play in the American political system. Democrats actively enable the Republican agenda. In politics, this is called the ratchet effect. The idea goes something like this. When Republicans hold power, the gears of the ratchet engage and the machine begins to move to the right, happily clicking along as policies pass, judges are replaced, and budgets are approved. Come the time when Democrats return to power, the ratchet is meant to move left, but the party acts as the pawl, immobilizing the gears.
Imagine Bernie Sanders in a country that already has universal pre-K, a country that already has universal school lunches, a country that already has universal healthcare, a country that is already making good energy investment. So like France and Germany are leading when it comes to investing in like renewable energy, like the devices for it. If you put Bernie Sanders in that country, he's going to advocate for more further left things, no matter what. If Bernie Sanders was in Canada, he would be advocating to make it cover dental and vision. If he was in the NHS, he would be advocating to make that include vision and everything like that. So if you put Bernie Sanders in a different country, he's always going to push for a more ideal world. So he is going to be on the far left. But with his current policies, you can make the argument that a lot of what he wants to do in America is already done in a different country. So this, exercise where we imagine Bernie Sanders if he was born in Denmark doesn't really make any sense.
Meaning the ratchet remains completely stuck until Republicans return to power and things go back.
Bernie Sanders, a lot of people give AOC a lot of bad will for this, for not being perfect as a young person. But Bernie Sanders did not have cameras on him his entire career. I mean, just 15, 20 years ago, he was pretty anti-immigrant. He was anti-immigration. He said open borders is a Koch brother plot to disenfranchise American unions, because obviously if you have a tight labor market, that's good for unions. If more immigration flows in, the labor market loosens up. And Bernie Sanders took that position. More immigration equals bad for American workers. A lot of unions were anti-immigrant, very anti-immigrant. And that's one of the reasons why Trump's message resonated among those who are also economically anxious and socially anxious, culturally anxious, because a lot of these old union people were also afraid of immigrants coming to take their jobs. That's where that trope came from. It wasn't just like, oh, we don't like other, we don't like outsiders. It was a combination. It was a culmination of those factors. And that's what Trump really tapped into, something that we really ignored. When we talk about unions in general, the new union needs to be multicultural. The new union needs to be diverse, and that's a really hard thing to do, especially with all the people fighting against unions from happening.
To moving right again. In the real world, this ratchet effect can be seen when Democrats do any or frequently all of three things: passively accept movement towards the right, move to the right themselves, and block movement to the left. Let's
$15 an hour minimum wage step. I feel like this. What about him not showing any examples? Yeah, it's because he'll have like one article about one policy that even like. I feel like a lot of people, when they criticize the American political system, I've said this over and over and over again, and I feel like I'm proven right over and over and over again, and I feel like I'm just 100% correct on this. Progressives have this huge problem where they think that 75% of Americans are progressive. It's just the process that's fucking everything up. It's just corporate donations that are fucking everything up. You saw this when Nina Turner, I think, lost her election, right? Even though she outspent her opponent, they still blamed like the secret Jewish money coming in and destroying the election. Or like even when like progressives...
This is a really weird topic for me because as somebody who is more progressive, who does not want corporate money or whatever, or interest money flowing into areas, it does kind of irk me, although it is very true. Nina Turner, when it was all said and done, had like an equal amount of money. She did not like greatly outspend her opponent. That is factually untrue. Destiny is completely wrong there. She did not like triple spending of her opponent. When it comes to the total money raised, so when both candidates put in their small dollar donations, individual donations, and donations from organizations, it was pretty close in how much both parties spent. But it does suck, don't you think, that one politician can come into an area where her ideology did lose during the presidential elections. It's a place where, progressives haven't done good. Clinton did good there, and Biden did good there. Nina Turner goes and makes community connections, and then she gets a bunch of small dollar donations to push her forward. You can also say, on another level, that Nina Turner's big donation pool was from her national connections. She got donations all across the world from like Bernie Sanders telling people to donate to Nina Turner. So it's a weird thing here because on one hand, you have this big machine behind Nina Turner from people, even if it's not within her own district, because she is famous because of the Bernie movement and whatever. You have this machine behind her because of that, but then there's a machine behind the other person, basically because the party said, we want to keep this seat for people who are more moderate, who are more friendly to our interests. So I still don't feel good about it, but I also made a big video after that primary saying, Nina Turner supporters and Nina Turner, you got to come back and run again. Don't be spoiled crybabies and ruin yourself and burn your bridges in the area because you took a loss here. You didn't campaign well. You didn't go by party lines. People vote on partisanship. People vote on social and cultural groups. You didn't campaign right, so you have to get back at it. I did criticize her for that, but I'm still conflicted in my head because I know, like, oh, people dollars versus a big pack coming in.
Losing across the United States, they can't make headway into these other elections. It's because of corporate donors. It's because of media bias. It's because of this. It's because of that. It's because of Twitter wars. It's because the Republicans are lying. It's because blah, blah, blah. It's because they aborted all the vote, right? Like when all of this shit happens, Destiny, when did that happen? Nina Turner lost her election, and people said that the reason why was because in the last like stretch, there was a big advertising campaign by her political opponent who won, but people ignore the fact that she still outspent her political opponent and lost the election. Oh, I'm sorry. They might not have said Jewish money, but it was like the pro-Israel conspiracy where the people came from Israel and donated, and because it was like some big pro-lobbyist group that I think had like pro-Israel stances. I'm sorry, they didn't actually say like, she said dark money. She didn't say Jewish money. I'm sorry, I was being a little bit hyperbolic there. My bad. Or she said evil money, and it was a Jewish group, not Jewish money. My bad.
Yeah, Nina didn't run her campaign correctly. She spread out her money over a long period of time. So if you spread out your money, and I'm pretty sure this is well known, if you spread out your money too much in a campaign, you're going to miss a lot of momentum at the very end. A lot of people don't decide who they're voting for until the day of, based off vibes or the final advertisement they saw, or like, who they talked to the night before. So if you don't have a big advertising push at the very end of the campaign, recency bias, people are going to remember if there's a great flood of advertisements from Chantel Brown that say, hey, Nina Turner hates Joe Biden, and guess what? She isn't going to get anything done for you.
Oh, no, that was my bad. Fuck you. That wasn't important what I was saying. But I'm just saying, like, progressives...
The K-high voters are important, dude. The suburban voters are the reason Nina lost. You have to be able to appeal to that demographic to win the Democratic Party.
always have excuses for why they lose. There's always an excuse.
And that is
it's
the
never,
CNN
ever, ever, ever,
MSNBC
ever.
crowd.
It's never the case. It's never, ever the case.
I agree. There's too much
Maybe-
excuses. I agree with that.
Maybe their policies just aren't as popular as they think they are. Wrong. That can never be the case. It's because it's the ratchet effect. It's the Overton window is shifted too far to the right. It's manufactured consent. It's corporate lobbying. It's the Republicans playing dirty. It's the process. It's the filibuster. It's the Supreme Court. It's Mitch McConnell. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. But it can never be the case that maybe progressive policies just aren't 100% as popular as you think they are. And that's your big problem. Your big problem isn't overcoming the process.
The big problem is people don't vote off of policy. That is a big issue. And I've already done my Medicare for All polling breakdowns. A public option seemed better to a lot of Democratic voters. So even on the policy front, progressives lost. But what they have to understand is if you can socially appeal to voters, they will approve of your policies more so. Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden talking about the public option, people don't know that much about policy, but the vibe check, baby. You got to have good vibes. That policy will seem more appealing based off who it's associated with. Pete came off as not offensive for everything he said, but he seemed like he was a pragmatist. Bernie Sanders lost a lot of voters from seeming too mad and yelly because I know this shocked a bunch of people during the primaries, but there's not a bunch of revolutionaries waiting in the Democratic parties to vote for, or waiting in the Democratic Party to vote for a radical socialist. That doesn't exist.
Your big problem is overcoming all of the conservative people, both Democratic conservatives and Republican conservatives, that exist in this country because you haven't made the argument to them. You haven't convinced them yet that you're correct. That's the issue, right?
But even imagine that conservative Democrat. They don't go to the poll like, oh, I'm not voting for this candidate because I don't want socialist healthcare. There's usually a culmination of factors. Joe Biden is the moderate, chill grandpa. He doesn't yell too much. He has a calm demeanor. He has drink a beer with energy.
Start with that last one. It's becoming obvious that properly leftist ideas are gaining traction in the US. As I've mentioned in previous videos, more and more people are losing faith in capitalism and are looking elsewhere for options. Popularity in socialism is on the rise, and several policies Americans have typically considered left-wing, like universal health care, increased minimum wages, tuition-free college, and the federal legalization of marijuana are more popular than ever.
Wait. Does the legalization of marijuana, is that a left-wing thing? Can we what are we considering left-wing here? Is marijuana socialist? Did I miss that chapter in Capital? Is it just going to be everything that's good is left wing and everything that's bad is right wing? I'm super confused by that assertion.
Legalizing marijuana has always been more of a left-wing struggle point ever since, I'm pretty sure that's always been a pretty left-wing thing. And then some libertarians hopped on. It's always been, because the opposite side always rejected it. The further right you were, the more you thought smoking weed was that for somebody of a lower status, or that for somebody who is unlikable or subhuman or whatever. Because marijuana was always known as the city drug. A lot of minorities smoked marijuana, and a lot of white people drank. The first marijuana ever brought into the U.S. was actually from a Mexican immigrant, I'm pretty sure, and that's one of the reasons they demonized it so much. That crop.
I guess it's one way to, I don't know. It's funny because in some ways people be like leftists. Like, a leftist is not a Democrat, you dumb fuck. Progressives aren't leftists. Leftists means socialism. And then it's like, well, left means legal marijuana. Like, the fuck? Like, I don't think that's leftist. That might be a progressive idea.
It's not
leftist. I would call it leftist. I would call it
progressive, yeah.
And then in terms of things like, Medicare
I
for all.
know, in this context, left equals socialist. I forgot we're in internet land. My
National
bad.
healthcare. Like, these have always been things we've argued about. This is why fucking Barack Obama passed the Affordable Care Act, okay? Why are you acting like this is like some brand new fucking phenomenon? Like, these are things that have been gradually building steam over time. It's not a new fucking thing.
With around 2/3 of Americans and the overwhelming majority of Democratic voters supporting them. But these policies...
I like how he just hand waves over that, most Americans support these things. Okay, if they do, then throw them up on a referendum, and then we'll see where they vote, right? Because in some...
I wish it was that easy to throw up policies on a referendum. I don't know why he says it like it's like, oh, just put it on a referendum, as if you can just be like in a state house and say, all right, guys, I unilaterally am going to call this we're going to have this as a ballot initiative. Like, I don't know.
Some states the referendums pass, in other states the referendums fail, right? Like, vote on it. Like, stop doing this. Hello. Stop doing national level polling and then pretending like that's how you solve issues in the United States.
If you wanted to do, I guess certain policies you can get through like that. But if you wanted to do, let's say you wanted to try universal health care, you would need a program to get federal funding in as well. Like California has a plan where they can do universal health care through a loophole and get federal funding for it if they decided to implement that system. Yeah, I don't know.
States. That's not how it works, okay? You cannot pull nationally on an issue and go, why isn't this legal? The entire fucking country doesn't vote via direct democracy.
You do need you either need policy experts that are lobbyists and in the room with politicians recommending a policy that can help people. For example, the child tax credit is something that was doable through policy. It was a tax credit. It was more of a bipartisan, all the Republicans didn't vote for it, but bipartisan in the Democratic Party, making it more refundable. That was a way to get money to people. And to help a very specific demographic. Nobody was pulling on the child tax credit before it happened. Policy is complicated. It's not always going to be done in a social media landscape. You know what I mean? Has anybody even heard of the child tax credit before they did the American Rescue Plan? Like, did anybody even know what that was? I mean, not really. I don't mean know what it was, but did you even know it was possible to just expand it and then make it fully refundable, so that people who are poor are basically going to get a UBI if they have a kid? Like, nobody was talking about that, but we do talk about Medicare for All and stuff. When you have a highly polling policy that's very mainstream, I feel like you need 70% or like 75% approval to get it seriously considered in government.
Democracy on federal referendums to figure shit out. That's not how this country works. That's never how our political systems work. Stop doing that. Stop saying, here's a poll. This thing, 62% popular. That's great, 62% popular. How many fucking people live in the fucking state of California, okay? California has a population of 40 million.
Universal at a state level would be terrible. Create a higher risk pool. Universal in America in general would be very difficult. Oh my God. These are not arguments against universal healthcare in America, but they are reasons it will be very difficult. One reason it'll be difficult is moving our hospital capacity to the right spots is going to be difficult because a lot more people are going to go to the doctor for a lot more reasons. How are we going to ration out elective care? Also, America, we have a very high poverty rate, which is associated with a lot of other health factors. We have a very high obesity rate. We have a very high heart disease rate. We have a very high smoking. Like, we have a lot of issues in America that make something like universal healthcare cost a lot of money. Every other systemic problem in our country makes universal healthcare cost more because every problem leads to health, how healthy people are. So yeah, it's really complicated. In America, we would have to spend a lot to do a universal plan per person.
People. It's not proportionally represented in the House of Representatives, and there's 2 Senate seats allotted to California, right? Stop doing a national level poll. It's like, well, why isn't this passed yet? It probably hasn't passed yet because the process doesn't enable things like this fast. One state or just a majority of people, 55% of people, can't just like universally pass policies in the United States. That's not how it works.
And many others never.
Yeah, that's one reason people said the public option wouldn't work, because it would become overloaded. Because if a bunch of poor people went on it, or like old people and sick people, well, not old people, they'll be on Medicare. But if a bunch of sick people and obese people, or like people that need to get a lot of healthcare coverage, if they all go on the public option, it just won't work. How do you fund that system? If we're going to have a system where like half of our society is on private care if they can afford it, and then all the poor people are on unless if you make a really good, robust government plan that outcompetes the free market, which every plan I saw would not do that.
Law.
For the
Why?
public option, at
Because
least.
Democrats aren't responding to the growth in popularity of leftism. In fact, they're actively resisting it. They do this in several ways.
They resist leftism because leftism isn't popular even in the Democratic Party. Oh God, he conflates so much shit. Just because you're in favor of like higher minimum wage or like universal healthcare or the fucking legalization of marijuana doesn't make you a leftist or a socialist. My brain has been fried. Republicans and conservatives and like left-leaning people on the internet are doing this really weird thing where we play like fast and loose all the time with what the fuck leftist means. Like, does leftist mean like socialist? Because that's what they'll argue with you about on the internet. They'll call you a dirty liberal and say, oh, you're not a leftist, you're a fucking capitalist, you're a fucking liberal. But then they'll be like, oh, leftist ideas like legalization of marijuana. What the fuck does that have to do with fucking socialism? What are you talking about?
Elections, it's as simple as Democratic elites clearing.
Okay, this is the big section. I wanted to critique Destiny on a little bit. So, election was rigged against Bernie Sanders, minimum wage. I want to talk about the election with Bernie Sanders a little bit, because Destiny seems to write off everybody's concerns as if they have no foundation in reality. And one thing he preaches with talking about like disinformation is you have to make sure we have the facts correct, because if you don't have the facts correct, you're not going to convince anybody to your side. Because once they see one thing that you got wrong, they are not even going to listen to any other parts of your evaluation.
The path for their more centrist candidates.
Also, this is a conspiracy theory that isn't exactly equal. Fuck you.
If you're going to compare the idea that there was systemic bias against Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primaries, if you're going to say that's similar to the big lie, nobody is going to take you seriously, because that is a really dumb thing to say.
That is a very, very dumb thing to say. I don't want to be like emails, WikiLeaks, or whatever, but we saw a lot of documentation from the Democratic Party. And I know legally the DNC doesn't need to run fair elections. That isn't a good argument. That is still something to complain about. But all the emails between DNC staffers and the leaders of the party that were like communicating with the Clinton campaign saying we should attack like Bernie Sanders' religion. We should attack him in this direction, that direction. Here's funding for this. Here's funding for that. When one of the big things that is brushed to the side that everybody knows happened is before one of the debates when Hillary Clinton got the questions early. Destiny laughs that off. In a debate, in a primary where there is a surging candidate because the top candidate is very unpopular and ridden with scandals, in that primary for a presidential election, a presidential primary between two candidates, in that election, one candidate got the questions early. In a race where Bernie Sanders, who was the opposing candidate against Hillary Clinton, needed good debate performances because they got high ratings, people were paying attention to it, and Bernie actually surged after that debate or those debates. It was very different from the debates we saw during this primary. There was not nearly any effect on candidates' numbers, but this one did matter. And the idea that one of the candidates got the questions early and we just like laugh about it and move on, you doing that is making it harder to shut down the Kyle Kalinskis of the world, to shut down the Jimmy Dores of the world. All the people who are like crazy populists who literally think like Shadow Inc. rigged the Iowa caucuses. All those people, it's harder to shut down those conspiracy theories because you're not noting basic facts about the party. Like, it's crappy that they chose such a bias. I'm not saying Bernie would have won, but it still sucks.
Anybody that says it, like the DNC rigged everything against Sanders, blah, 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 you are the exact same as like the Trump people that say that the election was rigged against Trump. Fuck you. Sanders was always behind in the polls. Sanders was behind the whole time. Other mainstream candidates were ahead the entire time. Sanders lost every time. The other mainstream candidates won every time. There is no mystery here. You're literally inventing, you're fabricating a conspiracy where you need not fabricate one. Like, the story behind Sanders in both primaries was candidate with the highest polling fucking favorability ends up winning the primary. That happened both times, okay? Like, stop trying to invent conspiracy. Stop trying to find conspiracy where there isn't. We can explain it with the polling data. It was going to happen the entire time, every way.
Like Clinton and Biden, by handing them endorsements and the keys to their more powerful...
Handing them endorsements? You're going to act like the process of actually securing endorsement isn't something that politicians do? You don't just get handed an endorsement. That's usually something you have to work for. That's usually that. And funny enough, this is one...
You do need political connections to get endorsements, which is another thing. This is when I say we are in politics. I say to my fellow progressives who are mad about this, we are in politics, okay? It's not going to be easy. When your big stance as a politician is, I'm not one of these Washington people. I'm not one of these corporate politicians. I'm not going to take big money. There is a big penalty for that. You're going to get worse media coverage, unless if you switch everything on them. That's what AOC is doing. So one of the big reasons I say AOC is somebody who should be uplifted and supported is because she has the ability, right now, she is in a position to do what Bernie Sanders couldn't do. To actually be known as a positive person to the younger generation that is also liked by suburban people who watch MSNBC and CNN. CNN has entire shows. They have entire shows about AOC. That's why I like what she's doing. Like AOC, she made that present vote on, although she looked terrible during that. She made that present vote the other day off of political calculation with the Iron Dome funding. She is in talks with powerful politicians getting on the inside. This stuff, even if it doesn't feel good, is necessary to get political power that you need in order to help people. Even if it doesn't feel good, even if it doesn't look good on Twitter, even if it's not good for your YouTube segment, this is all stuff that is necessary. And that's something she is doing better. But when it comes to this stuff, I agree. We just have to understand that is par for the course. They are going to get money from places that we are not going to get money from.
Like, especially people like Clyburn. This is one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders failed so much as a campaigner. God bless him, find what he does. But Bernie Sanders' inability to go and talk to people in the Democratic Party.
Jolah really doesn't interact with chat enough. Don't you know this whole thing is built on the illusion of parasocial relationships, right? That is how you grow your audience. Oh my goodness.
Secure these endorsements was a big reason why people would argue places like South Carolina or other parts of his campaign failed. You don't just get handed endorsements. Usually these are like relationships formed over a lifetime of political work or like a deliberate effort that you make as somebody running a campaign.
Remember after the Iowa caucus? This is another real thing that people might laugh at me for saying from DGG, but there is a reason candidates spend so much money on the first couple states. There is a big momentum factor, a big media swing that does happen. And when we had that like 3 weeks where we couldn't get the Iowa caucus results, that did really hurt Sanders. And the media coverage around that, even if you don't want to go into conspiracies about the election, the media coverage around that did suck. They did come out and say like, "Oh, Pete won outright." Pete, Victor, underdog coming up, the big story. Then Bernie, weak. Oh no, he lost. To Pete. Very big letdown. That was a really depressing moment in my life. Big sad.
Powerful fundraising apparatus. The mainstream media also heavily favors
Am
these
I
so-called
wrong?
moderates,
Question mark?
offering effectively limitless free publicity and often outright slandering the more left-leaning candidates. But it doesn't stop there.
Why not? Maybe the mainstream media prefers these candidates because they're mainstream candidates that most viewers prefer. Like, why can it never be that? It's like never.
I have a couple quantitative studies that actually show numbers on media and how they treated different candidates. Pete did win. Bernie did underperform. Yeah, but the thing is, the 3 weeks really made it a weird situation. I don't know. It did feel weird.
It can never be that thing. It has to be a conspiracy all the time.
It just felt weird.
Once in government, the party's attachment to centrism only grows. We see this when Biden abandons the fight for a $15 minimum wage long
Abandon the
before it
caucus.
starts, leading it to fail in the Senate.
I like how it's like it was Biden's fault that 15 an hour, like didn't 15 an hour was DOA.
Yeah, that's a dumb point. It was dead on arrival. Stop saying it's cheaper. Conservatives I talk with regular here and think, wait, what? Healthcare, death lines. Oh, hit them up with Medicare for all was leagues better, zero out of pocket, keep your doctor great, wait times great. No, I'm talking about the total expense. Thank you, by the way, for the super chat, Spencer. I'm talking about the total expense of universal healthcare per capita is going to be more in the U.S. versus, and it'll still be cheaper than the private system by far, because once you dissolve Medicaid and Medicare and CHIP and other programs into Medicare for all, the cash looks a lot different that you're spending on it. But all I was saying is, America would be a difficult scenario because of our obesity, because of diabetes, because of a lot of things that other countries don't have to deal with, because they have healthier
that
populations.
Shit was never going anywhere. For not ignoring the fact that it's
Yeah,
bad economic policy,
it'll still save money. Yeah, it'll still save money. Don't worry about that part. I'm just talking about the policy, you know?
never ever had any of the center-leaning Dems. You never had. Wasn't there like? Am I wrong? Or weren't there like 8 Democrats that actually explicitly came out against the 15-hour minimum wage before it even like really got onto the floor? Like this was never happening. This was never ever happening with only 50 Dems in the Senate. Maybe if you had a bigger majority, maybe, but never with 50.
We see it in the infrastructure bill going from this to this. We see it in the complete silence of high-ranking Democrats when Amazon workers and Alabama coal miners attempt to unionize or go on strike, leaving them alone and without the
Joe Biden did support them more than any other president in the past. Wait. When Joe Biden said he supported the Alabama union workers, that probably was more support shown for unions than we've seen in like like a lot of years. I don't want to say like 40 or 50, but like
support they were promised by America's so-called most pro-union president you've ever seen. Everywhere you look, the ratchet is frozen.
One thing I do vibe with second thought is the idea, if you're a socialist, if you're like an anti-capitalist, it is very true and frustrating. And this is my big gripe about like the right wing in America right now. When they talk about Biden from an ideological perspective, you know, they're not capitalists anymore on the Republican side. You're not a real capitalist if you don't understand how necessary a welfare state and infrastructure is. You know, Joe Biden is a capitalist. They are both right-wing parties in the sense that they're both not socialist. They're not pushing for like big public and collective ownership of anything. But one side is socially liberal, and they're liberal. I mean, like social liberals in the sense of, you know, they want a huge welfare state with a lot of different perks. Maybe not as far as other countries go, but they do. But that still is capitalism. And capitalism functions better when you have a better base for it in this modern era. So like Republicans are like, I don't even know what they're arguing for. Fake ass Adam Smiths.
In place. They aren't fighting like hell for the little guy, they're getting in his way. Now, of course, when Republicans take control of government, the ratchet begins to move freely again.
They should expand the PP part of the ACA with a Medicare for all option. They should make, I don't know. I still think we're going to end up with a multi-payer system like we see in Australia, where, well, two-tier system. That's not multi-payer, is it? That's two-tiered, I guess, because you have the tier of government and then you have the tier of private, right? No.
Policies get passed with purely performative resistance. Judges get appointed who uphold right-wing policies for decades, and the country continues trending towards the right. When Democrats
How are Democrats supposed to stop the appointment of judges?
Just don't do it.
Was there even a theoretical aside from like a Democrat breaking into Capitol Hill with an AR-15? What were they supposed to do?
Abolish the filibuster. There you go, buddy. Abolish the filibuster. That easy. Adam Smith and Karl Marx got along with a lot of their evaluations. They just had different perspectives. People don't even know this. They think Adam Smith and Karl Marx were like brutal, divided enemies. But in reality, Karl Marx agreed about a lot of capitalism being better than the previous forms that we've had globally. They both agreed on the benefits of capitalism, but Adam Smith basically looked at like, I usually say it's like a timeline. So Karl Marx saw capitalism, said, that's pretty good, man, but we can go further. Just like Vosh. Vosh is like Karl Marx. But then Adam Smith said, he looked back and said like, capitalism is much better than what we had before. And he's like, this is where we're going to stop. We're going to improve on the free market. So like basically Karl Marx is Vosh and Adam Smith is Destiny. They're like the reincarnations of Adam Smith and Karl Marx. It's complete facts.
The
People gotta
Republicans
know.
had the votes to get these nominations through without they didn't need any Democrats.
Karl Marx was inspired by Adam Smith, just like Vosh was inspired by Destiny. Thank you. It's coming together.
I don't understand what he's talking about. What do they expect to happen in a video game?
return to office, concentration camps along the southern border become immigrant.
Oh my god. Dude, we're only 5 minutes through this 14-minute video. Holy shit.
Overflow facilities and remain open. Immigrants are told, do not come. The U.S. Embassy remains in Jerusalem despite an ongoing genocide, and military budgets continue to rise. Nothing quite illustrates the ratchet effect better than the U.S. corporate tax rate over time. These are the taxes that corporations have to pay, the same way you and I do when we earn our income. Back in 2017,
Wait, hold on, sorry. I was doing chat. Let me listen to this.
rates the ratchet effect better than the U.S. corporate tax rate over time. These are the taxes that corporations have to pay, the same way you and I do when we earn our income.
Oh god, whenever anybody talks about taxes, it drives me crazy. Oh, I don't even want to, I'm not even gonna get it, whatever.
Back in 2017, Trump cut taxes for both the richest Americans and corporations, while giving effective...
Wait, what happened in Australia? Is that the current prime minister? Isn't he really conservative? You get penalized if you don't buy insurance, even though it's unnecessary. How I understand it, their system before is like everybody has a baseline form of Medicare, and then if you want to buy into the private system to get into private hospitals and to get in front of the line, you would get like a rebate from the government, and that rebate can go towards your private purchasing. Am I wrong about that? I thought that's how it worked, sort of.
Nothing to the rest of us but the promise of an eventual fictional trickle-down. With this cut, Trump brought the corporate tax rate from an already low 35% down to a paltry 20%.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure the U.S. has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. U.S. tax rate, corporations compared. I'm pretty sure the U.S. is like one of the highest corporate taxes in the world.
Oh yeah, sure. Karl Marx and Abraham Lincoln were pen pals. That's a fun thing too. I know that's a bad analogy. Thank you. It was a joke. Karl Marx and Abraham Lincoln were pen pals. If you want to get some people, be like, hey, do you like Abraham Lincoln? They'll say, yeah, of course. He's my favorite Republican president. Then you bring up the documents like, hey, here's the letters him and Karl Marx wrote back and forth. Here's a speech Abraham Lincoln gave called Capital and Workers or whatever it was called.
And even when you go by the effective tax rate paid, I'm pretty sure it's still like pretty high. Now, I don't know after Trump, maybe it's not, but because Trump cut it quite a bit.
Australia is like the
prior
U.S.
to
in
the
all the
Trump cut?
worst
Was it 30?
ways.
It was 35%. It looks like the highest one. I think we had the highest posted corporate tax rate in the world. The effective was still over because France, I think, right now is the highest. 32% was the highest. I think,
No, look up. I'm not kidding. Abraham Lincoln and Karl Marx. They were literally like Lincoln wrote speeches that takes Marx's evaluations and wording. I'll bring the speech up.
highest marginal bracket, but it should be higher. No, I don't like corporate taxes. I think corporate taxes are garbage. Just raise, like, if you want to do something, raise capital gains and raise personal income taxes. Fuck corporate taxes. Explain your position on corporate tax. Just who cares? I mean, like, I guess you can have like a little corporate tax rate if you want to incentivize reinvestment or whatever. But like, why tax corporate revenue? Like, just tax it when people get paid. That's how I do it. But whatever.
Karl Marx said in a speech titled like Workers and Capital, he said after reading Marx's work, labor is the superior of capital. And Lincoln spoke about how necessary it was to have a collective union that respected workers' rights and human rights. A lot of that discussion came from Marx, and people don't know about that. That Lincoln was influenced. And if I hate when people call Lincoln the best Republican president. It makes no sense. He wasn't a freaking he wasn't an anti-federal. He wasn't for like states. He was literally for the Union. Like he wasn't for the Confederacy. He was for a big central government. I don't know. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense.
Shifting the tax burden
Nothing
even
needs to
further
make
onto the
sense.
shoulders of average Americans and away from his party's corporate donors and himself. Thankfully, Biden is bringing it back up to 25%, 28% if we're lucky, 7 to 10 points lower than where it started. Here, the trend becomes clear. Year after year, Republicans push further and further for imperialist foreign policy, for xenophobic immigration restrictions, for rich Americans to hoard more and more wealth. Democrats come to appease the masses, promising they'll be different from the previous administrations, returning power to the people, but always less than they had before and never getting in the way of this greater rightward trend. This isn't to say Democrats never pass progressive legislation. They sometimes do, but it remains an
I like, dude, this is like watching, this guy's like the Lawrence Southern of the left.
I don't know how you can say what Second Thought is saying after after like living the past couple months.
When he's like, sometimes Democrats do pass progressive legislation. It shows Bernie Sanders and fucking AOC, two people that are like not responsible for passing any fucking major legislation in the Senate or in the House whatsoever. Why the fuck are you showing videos of this? Oh my God.
exceptionally rare event, especially in comparison to the number of conservative policies that pass. And it's always less than what they promised, less than what they could theoretically achieve, and nowhere close to what would be considered progressive in other developed countries. Now, these are all situations where Democrats appear ineffective, where they try but fail to deliver on the demands of their constituents. But they can be far more harmful. Every time they gain power, Democrats adopt some new right-wing policy, pushing the left further outside the realm of acceptable politics, and allowing the right to claim even more outrageous amounts of ideological territory as it adopts, according to some, the trappings of a fascist state. We've seen this for decades. In the late 60s and 70s, it was law and order. A seemingly innocuous phrase coined by Nixon became realized in full force by Reagan's disastrous war on drugs. Law and order became one of the rallying cries of a political program that threw the black community,
Dake Mule, the full quote, capital is only the fruit of labor, and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital and deserves much higher consideration.
men in particular, in jail with long sentences for so-called broken window crimes.
I wish that, like, and this is only something I know now because we've read so much about this, like, nobody talks about the 93 crime bill correctly. Everybody acts like the 93 crime bill was this extreme right-wing fucking policy that got passed that was like, it wasn't, dude. Everybody in the country supported the crime bill. Violent crime was at an all-time high in the 90s. Like,
Violent crime was at an all-time high in the 90s because of social conflict, because of the war on drugs, because of the reinstated police state after Nixon and Reagan, because of how they categorized crime, because of a perception of how crime was raising. That's why people think it skyrocketed so much. The narrative fit the bill, but the reason we got the bill wasn't simply because, you know,
people were losing their minds over how fucked this country was. Black leaders, white people, like, everybody supported the 93 crime. Well, not maybe not everybody.
yeah, it wasn't just like there's crime everywhere. I can't walk outside without seeing somebody die. I need to support this crime. Like, it was, it was generally supported, but
like, there was a lot of support to break.
just the narrative Destiny's going with here is a little bit weird to me.
Crack down and do something to stop crime. Now, obviously, we can go back and look at it and be like, okay, well, the provisions of this were bad. But I hate how people present this like so simplistic, like, oh, crime bill bad because we hate black
I
people.
mean,
and
it's
criminals.
true. The black community did want. I mean, the black. I don't like using that phraseology. A majority of black people in America did support, and black leaders did support relatively most of the crime bill. Just like today, they support police.
Minor crimes
Like, Bernie fucking voted for the crime bill. You know, like,
Yeah.
heavily punished. So
not to mention that there were
so-called
provisions
broken window.
of the crime bill that were really, really good. Like, I always forget the name of this, but it was the one that Biden, I think, authored this section. The protection for, like, domestic victims, for domestic abuse victims, which had, like, a measurable impact on decreasing domestic violence on women, like a measurable, like, direct.
So we had a thing called hotspot policing that developed a couple years after or was it during when the crime bill was being done? Does anybody know? There's a thing called hotspot policing. It's more refined today. The results are non-conclusive or inconclusive, whatever the word is. So hotspot policing is basically when you you hyper-focus on a certain area of the city with a high crime rate. You use like algorithms and like numbers to like pinpoint that, and then you focus all of your officers in that one area. And broken windows policing and all of that stuff that happened in New York City was a branch off of hotspot policing, where they'd focus in on an area. A lot of what they saw wasn't a reduction in like murders or robberies. It was more of a heightened or like more of an increase in petty crimes and also drug offenses when they did that policy. It didn't really, and the over policing economically hurt these areas as well when they did hotspot policing. Stop and frisk and everything. And
thing, but then
it hurt. One thing about policing as well, you know, in order for a cop to have the ability to properly do their job, they need some consent from the people they're serving. They need a decent community relationship. And stop and frisk really killed that relationship between police and the people they're supposed to be serving. So that's one thing that really hurt because of stop and frisk and these crime policies.
Like, they reinstated that provision over and over again. The Violence Against Women's Act. Yeah.
crimes. Minor
Destiny, that's not true. What did I? Oh, I've seen you type a lot of stupid shit in chat. Hold on, am I banning you? What did I just say? It's not true. Never mind. You just said dumb fuck.
crimes heavily punished so that the state could showcase its power. Politicians drummed up fear of black and minority criminals.
No, they didn't have to drum up fear.
They did, though. They didn't have to. I guess you can do that, but they were doing the whole super predator thing. They were doing the whole suburbs, watch out. They were fear-mongering about this. Bill Clinton won in part in 1992, right? What year is it? 2021? God damn. I wasn't even born at that point. I was still a vision. I was still fake. I was not born in 1992. I was not alive. But yeah, Bill Clinton won as the tough on crime Democrat. He barely won. I don't even. It was complicated.
Can we violent
But
crime
yes, they
rates
did.
US
They did fearmonger about black
over timing.
people.
What, you
That
didn't
did
have
happen.
to drum up fear for this. Like, why doesn't this guy like do any research or show a single graph or like do any type of like, if you're doing a video essay, like at least support your shit with data. Like, we can look at like violent crime. Dude, it spiked like insanely in the fucking 90s. There's a reason why the crime bill got passed in 93. And it wasn't because politicians just drum up like fake fucking fear or they manufacture consent. Like, there was a reason why people were so freaked the fuck out about violent crime in the US.
Yeah, that's the thing. Hotspot policing would never happen in the suburbs because there, there wouldn't be any pressure there. There are different things in the crime bill that did work. Don't get me wrong, but there also were a couple damaging things. Destiny is correct to say that the overall bill and everybody to do with the bill shouldn't be like holistically criticized because I mean you can sign on to a bill and agree with 70% of it.
Yeah, like holy shit, like look at 80s movies that depicted like the future of the US, like fucking RoboCop or like Escape from LA or Escape from like true, like these movies show that like the future US was like this dystopian
Yes. The that was part of the sensationalism, bro.
like fucking future ran by crime bosses and shit. Like, oh my god, Judge Dredd, Demolition Man, like holy fuck.
Yo, the original RoboCop versus the modern edition is so different. The original RoboCop is basically a horror film. It's so gory. I mean, I'm just not into gory movies, but holy crap, dude. The new one is so made for kids. Has anybody ever seen the first RoboCop?
While simultaneously terrorizing non-white communities with an over-militarized police force. In the 90s, Democrats latched onto this Republican program with their own narratives. You may have heard the term super predator. This super predator...
I love that Republican arguments against like Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi are actually latched onto so fucking pathetically by these leftist like scum-sucking dipshits. These people that call themselves socialists and make tens of thousands of fucking dollars every month, but they hide it from...
Those two criticisms don't make much sense. The super predator thing was criticized by left leaders. I mean... throughout the country when all that stuff was being said and fear-mongering about certain individuals and certain communities. I don't know how this ties back to the socialists making a lot of money through content creation, although I agree, it is cringe that they do this. I'm a socialist. Check out my Patreon. I need to make more money. You already know my opinion
on their Patreon, so that they don't actually like show themselves as the petite bourgeois that they actually are. Like, it's so fucking hilarious to me how like they buy into all of this propaganda.
I hate the left.
Jesus, you like
I hate the left so much.
Uncover like 10-year-old propaganda hits against Democrats. Like, oh, it's so
horror in the sense of gore is horror though.
Boy, I know the Dems
it
are bad.
Depends, I guess, but it's in the category of horror. You can have a funny you can hypothetically have a funny horror movie.
Fucking time. Trump told me so. I saw this on
because
Tucker. Remember
it's so
like, whoa, Tucker
and
Carlson
gruesome.
makes some great fucking points sometimes, guys. Like, oh my god, it's so dumb. Holy shit.
A young criminal with no remorse became the myth that glued the Democratic tough-on-crime program together. The Clinton administration in particular led its own wave of over-policing with the infamous crime bill, which included what was called 3 strikes lifetime sentencing, put more police on the streets, increased the scope of the death penalty, and of course, put more people in jail than ever before. These are not the policies of a left-
Wait, did Hassan really do that with Tucker? Didn't he have an exchange with Nicki Minaj over him? Yeah, because Hassan will move his positions to whatever the most aesthetically popular
Yeah,
at the
it's a
time.
bunch of
But
poor
there used to be a
kids
case like a year and a half
donating.
ago. I don't know if Vosh fell into this trap too, but a whole bunch of lefties, because they've never talked to a conservative in their life, didn't realize that, wait, there's actually a lot of anti-corporate Republicans now. Like,
you know what makes sense? You know what makes a lot of sense? Donating to small streamers. If I heard a streamer made like $1 million per day, I probably wouldn't give them $5. But do you know what I do? I do donate to people who have like a couple thousand subscribers. I'll be like, hey, here's $5. Thank you for the good content. You know, that's different.
Positions, whatever the most aesthetically popular thing at the time. But there used to be a case like a year and a half ago. I don't know if Vosh fell into this trap too, but a whole bunch of lefties, because they've never talked to a conservative in their life, didn't realize that, wait, there's actually a lot of anti-corporate Republicans now. Like,
Hey, I saw a take on Twitter that said, oh my God, doesn't horror mean it should try to scare you? Gore is unsettling and scary. I mean, you might not find it to be that. There's some like really ghost horror movies that I don't find scary. Does that mean it's not horror? I don't think so. I don't think so. I know so. All right, you're wrong. Sorry. Take the L, loser, liberal. Liberal. What did I say? I forgot what I was talking about.
Charlie Kirk and like the turning point you say, like there's a lot of new age Republican, especially Trump Republicans that are anti-corporate. So whenever Tucker Carlson would come out on Fox News and be like, these large corporations are ruining
Gross
America,
is
people like
horror
the sun,
to an
please-
extent. If it's that unsettling, the point of horror is to unsettle you, to make you feel weird, to make you feel shaky, like, ew, did I just see that? Or make you feel uncomfortable. That's the point of horror. It's not just like I'm shivering. Dude, come on.
tweeted this one. You can go find the tweets.
This
Our
can't be
tweets
a
are like,
hot
wow, dude,
take.
I can't believe that even Tucker Carlson is making these based points.
Horror is to make you scared, all right? If seeing a man's arms all be blown off isn't scary to you, great. That doesn't mean it's not horror, though, just because you don't personally find it scary. If I watch a horror movie, there's a couple bad ones I've seen that don't scare me, all right? Does that mean those movies are no longer horror?
CNN doesn't understand because they have no idea that like some conservatives were also like anti-corporate. Like it's fucking stupid as fuck.
Left-wing government. Generally speaking, Democrats are quick to jump on the police state bandwagon. We've seen it when the Biden administration tries to increase police funding and deploy it against Black Lives Matter protesters. We've seen it with the passage of the Patriot Act by a Democrat.
Oh, that's really bad. Oh my, he wants to increase funding and deploy all the funding with police onto the Black Lives Matter protest. You can, boy. The funding that Joe Biden wants to give to the police would unironically improve policing. It would take strain off police departments that are doing a good job. Push for better community policing. The idea that Joe Biden wants more money to crack down on BLM, that's not a one-to-one fit. If Second Thought wants people to take that criticism seriously, he needs to say, like, hey, Obama and Biden cracked down on these protesters here. That was pretty bad. But, you know, the money Joe Biden wants to give to these stations across the country to make sure they have body cams and to make sure they have dash cams so we can hold cops accountable. That's pretty good. That's a nuanced, real take. Not just like, Joe Biden wants to give $300 million to the cops so they can kill Black Lives Matter protests. Like, that just isn't happening. That's
Democratic-led Senate back in
it's not happening.
What?
We've seen it when the Biden administration tries to increase police funding and deploy it against Black Lives Matter protests.
For most relevant police funding is done at the state or not even, is at the city level. I don't understand.
Do
what
we
this
have to
even means.
debate what
Well,
is
can you
considered
tell-
a horror movie?
Hey, what is
let
it
me,
specifically
let me
in
get
terms
some
of Biden
sources.
deploying police?
Where's your
or deploying
source?
police against Black
All
Lives
right?
Matter. What?
We've seen it with the passage of the Patriot Act by a Democratic-led Senate back in 2001.
Why are we talking about the Patriot Act still? What the fuck?
Over time, Democrats tack more and more right-wing politics.
I feel like this is like, I feel like this guy is like somebody decided to test. We're gonna make an AI and we're gonna have it troll through every fucking left-wing Twitter ever, and then we're gonna just shit out videos with random pictures and buzzwords based on like what the left is tweeting at any point in time.
Onto their agenda, until the Democrats of today begin looking a lot like yesterday's Republicans. There are two main reasons the Democrats
There
act
you
this way.
go. I have a Reddit post here with 6 upvotes that says RoboCop is an awesome horror movie. Okay? Okay?
First, they
Horror
rely heavily
movie.
on large corporate interests.
Movies have different genres, all right? There is an action thriller, there's a drama thriller, there's a drama horror, there's a thriller horror, there's a horror. That's what it is. It's part horror. I'm not saying that's the number one genre. I'm saying that's at play there through the gore and making you feel like, ew, this is scary. A dystopian future where the robot cops are killing this is gross.
Weapons
You're
manufacturers,
wrong.
the pharmaceutical industry, and fossil fuel companies are some of the most influential sources of funding for both political parties, and so will
That is
necessarily
true.
drag the Democrats further to the right than their
I know within my own state, the same politicians that get the biggest donations from the oil companies are the same ones that vote for the oil companies. And this might be to or from. You know, they might already have those positions and take the money, or they might be aggressive on those positions because they get the money. But like, for example, if a company dumps 25 barrels of oil, they don't need to report it. A politician might pass a bill so that the limit for reporting is like 50 barrels of oil. So like, hey, if you dump 25, You have to report it now. But if we pass this, you can dump 49 without having to report it. Like that kind of stuff does happen, and that's where the money does flow.
Constituents and the American.
And when you have Cinema and Manchin going to huge corporate fundraisers while at the same time rejecting this big human-centered infrastructure plan that is completely paid for through corporate taxes, and they come back and say, I don't like how much it costs, even though it's all paid for. They won't admit they just don't want to raise the corporate taxes. Like, that is
People
weird.
in general want them
It's
to
weird.
go. Just look at the Biden administration's stance on oil drilling. Second, the U.S. works on a
What is that? Just look at the Biden administration's stance on oil drilling. Wait, well, is the U.S. just supposed to say the Democrats supposed to say we're stopping oil? We're not going to do oil anymore? Wait, what does that?
The Keystone Pipeline, that's such a weird issue for me because it didn't do anything to repeal it. I mean, the oil, it just hurt a private company and saved a couple of the preservations that were in the direct path of the Keystone Pipeline, but the oil still is flowing, baby. There's other pipelines, there's other ways to get oil to places. Yeah, I don't think it was that big of a dub when that happened. Canada was mad when we canceled that because their government lost a lot of money and revenue. I remember Trudeau was saying, like, please, Biden, don't cancel the pipeline. Please, Biden, don't do it, buddy. Please. But yeah, I think Biden did encourage global, or like where we get our oil from. Oh, what was it called? I'm having a brain fart. But he is asking them to pump more oil because of how high the gas prices are in America right now. Gas prices are going crazy. I have to convince people. I have to give them a full economic explanation. I'm like, demand on the East Coast for gas is up like 80% right now from where it usually is. Everybody's driving after COVID. The global production of crude oil isn't keeping up. Like I try to give them these explanations, but they just think that Joe Biden hit the button to make the gas prices higher. And I'm like, dude, no, Joe Biden can't hit the button to reverse it. Like Joe Biden can't. Like it's not him. He's not making the gas go
Also,
up.
hold
I
on, wait,
swear.
am I wrong or didn't Biden stop?
Oh my God, and Biden saved so many of our national parks. Trump wanted to take all of our national parks and just set them on fire, just for no reason. Every national park he wanted to kill. Look it up. Like, he had a mission to destroy everything beautiful about America. If there was a plot of land that wasn't being drilled on, he wanted to make sure that shit was dug up in a day. Oh my God, Trump was so
new reserves
bad.
on federal land, and I thought they did something about fracking, but I might be wrong about that. I know that there were 3 huge pipelines that were canceled as well. But this might not even happen under Biden. I think the Keystone XL one, there was one in the Northeast, and the Dakota pipeline. I think all 3 are dead. I feel like we could make a bingo card for shitty lefty videos, and we could
Yeah, I don't know how that is all going to work with energy consumption. In order for us, I'll do a video on it, but in order for us to like power our entire grid with solar energy and wind energy and through hydroelectricity and all that stuff, it would take a lot of. We need to do a big plan like this, but it would take a warlike effort to do that. I don't see oil production slowing down till we're forced to have it slow down though, which is kind of sad.
Actually, I might actually. No, one of you guys should then post this subreddit. We should make like a bingo card for shitty lefty videos.
I mean, if you look at global standards, I don't think we're gonna run out yet. I want to build the renewable energy. I don't want to keep on burning the stuff that doesn't come back. Like, come on, dude. In a video game or anywhere else, if you have a resource that doesn't regenerate, it's usually something you should save. You probably shouldn't use that at the beginning of the game. You should probably use the ability that lets you regain health slowly over time, not the one that just like burns out. I don't know.
One is like under the phrase manufacturer consent, corporate donors, Overton window. What other? There's like so many left wing like buzzwords. Medicare for all polling most popular. Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders is a centrist. Bernie or the 4 like new Justice Dems are all centrists. 2 right wing parties. U.S. imperialism, police state, 15 an hour, big pharma, big anything.
mostly majoritarian model of democracy. In these types
The elites.
of democracies, 2 parties naturally rise to power and completely dominate the political arena. Whoever has the most votes, that is, electoral college votes, leads the country, naturally creating the incentive to vote for only those parties who stand a chance of winning. In the US, the Democrats and Republicans. This does a few things. 1, it stops third parties from gaining any significant traction. After all, why vote for the party you like better if they have no chance of winning? 2,
One
it
big
stops
perspective I've gained looking at how parties are made, it's better to look at political parties as big organizations that happen to fall under the same name. The Democratic Party isn't one thing. It makes a lot more sense to work through the DSA, for example, and to grow a profile like a caucus within the Democratic Party than it does to make a third party for obvious reasons. But an entire political party, you can't look at it as Democrat or Republican. There's too much diversity. Even if we had a party system that had 4 parties, like the ultra-nationalists, the neoconservatives, the liberals, and the social democrats, even if we had those 4 parties, we'd be seeing similar governing to what's happening right now. Just having those different designations wouldn't really do much to what kind of policy comes out. Although I do support mostly ranked choice voting. Although one thing that does scare me about ranked choice is I don't know if people could handle that nowadays. Because the results have the chance to swing so much with ranked choice. Right now, going through multiple audits of Arizona and Pennsylvania, what would happen through like ranked choice elections all across the country? And every time the vote tally swung over to like a Democrat, we'd have like 10 years of investigations. Can we handle that as a democracy? A way to elect politicians so complicated? Can we do that? Can we? I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can handle it.
The 2 big parties from having to actually be accountable to their core voters, who have no choice but to vote for them so long as they remain preferable to the other option, which they always will. There will always be a, quote, lesser evil. And 3, the 2 parties...
It's like some things that he's saying are not even necessarily wrong. Like you'll always vote for one as long as they're better than the other. But that's where the differences in policies come from, isn't it?
These must now compete over the same centrist voters to have any chance of winning, forcing them closer ideologically.
But isn't that how most successful political systems work? Like most people, I know that it doesn't seem this way when we're online. Even I'm guilty of this sometimes. Most people do not exist at the radical extremes. That's not where the vast majority of voters are, probably in any country ever. The vast majority of voters are not on either extreme. The vast majority of people group up somewhere in the center.
Both parties are already dragged towards the right by their wealthy donors fearful of the unruly masses. The center
Oh my God.
creeps ever so steadily towards the right, and with it goes the entirety of American politics. Every election year, the Democrats elected to the highest levels of power get there by feeding us the same lines. They say, we alone provide an alternative to the past X years of disaster and the objectionable Republican figurehead. We alone are the barrier that prevents the free reign of regressive, conservative politics. Surely you wouldn't vote for the fascist. And yet, in the very same breath, they assure us that they need to work across the aisle, that our democracy hinges on their need to move towards the center and capture the mythical swing voters who decide the election.
People say that, but people always make fun of the mythical swing vote. It's not the mythical, it's the centrist vote.
The suburbs in Pennsylvania swung it to Biden. Look at the differences from 2016 to 2020. Those are the places that really changed. A lot of suburban voters got sick of Trump's attitude, basically. COVID played a big... Dude. I don't know. COVID really was the equalizer for this election. Joe Biden won by 7 million votes and barely won the Electoral College. It's so scary.
Voters. But like,
People tell me like, even I think this, like we have a democratic crisis. Maybe voters can't handle voting or something like that. But the fact is, voters are making good decisions all across the country. But our political system is made not for people to make decisions. We have a tyranny of the minority right now. And by minority, it's the Democratic minority, which is, you can lose the electoral, you can lose the popular vote by 7 million votes, but still win the Electoral College. Or you can lose the Senate by 40 million votes and still have a 50-50 split. So like,
it worked. Like Hillary was able to capture a lot of centrist voters. Like that was borne out in the data. People that don't appeal to the center end up getting fucking crushed, right? Believe it or not, I'm pretty sure that Trump was like, it's really hard to draw these political axes because of like the different policies, but I would argue that Trump was probably more centrist than like Rubio or Ted Cruz. I think you could make that argument. I really do. Because
dude,
Trump...
he used dumb, bland populism and just said whatever he thought was popular. He wasn't a centrist. He didn't have an ideology. He still doesn't have an ideology. He's a power-hungry, narcissistic vessel for power. Like,
did not have a history of being a neocon, like a traditional kind of like conservative person.
He was a centrist,
early on in the
baby.
cycle, he was relatively chill about things like Planned Parenthood, which most Republicans fucking hate. This was before he was elected. Now, once he was elected, shit got really fucking weird, right? Like, to compare the Planned Parenthood thing, he was saying shit like women that have abortions should be fucking executed, or not executed.
Dude,
should be charged with crime.
he
But,
did
like,
say that. When Trump found it politically expedient, he went from like, yeah, I guess I'm sort of pro-choice, to running as a Republican. He's like, if you have an abortion, you should literally be killed. Like, oh my God.
In the actual primaries,
He really
I think
just
Trump
did
came
a
off
complete
quite a bit
flip-flop,
more
huh?
center-leaning and even also made tons of appeals to negotiating with both
Trump
sides.
is a
Like
centrist.
Trump, I remember watching Trump doing interviews where he was like,
Trump
what
is
about
working
these
with
things
both
like
sides.
inverted, like corporate inversion? Them say they don't like it, Republicans say they don't like it. Like,
Yeah, I'm working with both sides. But Destiny, you're not. You're doing the Hassan thing. He wasn't working with both sides. He was doing the dumb populism. We both hate corporations. Let's all be angry. Let's just bland populism. He's not.
why we still
That's not
I'll
centrist
bring people together and work
politics.
it. Like Trump talked all the time about negotiating between the left and right.
So if Destiny says this works, then he's saying populism works to some extent.
I would have to go back because obviously the landscape changed a lot once he was elected. But I'm pretty sure that through the primary process, Trump did a lot of non-traditional things when it came to Republicans. Yeah, he made nice comments about Caitlyn Jenner. He held like a fucking pride flag. He wasn't as big of a war hawk as traditionally Republicans were. He attacked like military vets, like McCain sometimes, although McCain wasn't that popular in the Republican Party. But yeah, Trump did not run as an extreme right-wing figure in the Republican Party. Absolutely
Yo, I haven't seen you in a while, Parik. By the way, thank you all for hanging out.
not. But
Wait, Trump didn't run as a far right. His first campaign slogan was "The rapists and killers are coming over the border to come kill us." Like, bro, just because he said, "Hey, Democrats and Republicans both hate corporations, huh? We should do something about that." Just because Trump did that doesn't mean he governed or ever appealed as a centrist. Oh my God.
According to them, this is the
That's-
only reasonable
he's just
approach.
kinda
This is
talking
what
right
it means
now.
to be electable. All the while, American politics moves steadily further right. There is some hope,
Yeah,
though.
populism is when you
why
work
is it that we
together
don't
with
have
both
this
sides.
deluge of left-leaning or of leftist fucking politicians winning
That was
these
a shoe on
elections, though,
head
if that's the
take.
case?
Communism is centrist, basically.
Within the Democratic Party, progressive figures
Destiny, he did have an evangelical VP. He did, but my take on that, and I could be wrong, but my take on that was that Pence
Trump had an evangelical VP for the same reason Obama had Biden as a VP. They had to get demographics they were not good at getting. So Barack Obama needed to make, and this is a problem with racism in America, by the way. He did need for us to get our first black president, he needed to be somebody. They needed to be somebody. Well, actually, it would have needed to be a man because America also does not want to elect women for some reason. But they would need to be safe looking to white people. Like they'd have to make white people comfortable. So Joe Biden helped solidify that. That's why Barack Obama was able to do so well. He played the game very well. He was great at speaking. His cadence was infatuating. Joe Biden had those Rust Belt, white roots. Made a lot of white people comfortable with Obama. And Pence made a lot of evangelicals more comfortable with Trump. Although Trump made a calculation there that was sort of wrong. He didn't need Pence because I think he overestimated what that voter base cares about.
was brought in as the evangelical vice president to shore up Trump's weakness with the evangelical crowd. Because Trump was not a standard, like, super... And Trump has a history of being, like, affiliated with Democrats, right? Like, Trump was at fucking, like, the Clinton wedding and shit. And he's been seen publicly, like, supporting, like, other Democratic politicians,
are gaining traction and getting elected. The policies that are considered too far left by corporate Democrats, like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, are
Like, the Green New Deal is not just... It's just not... This is opposed by the AFL-CIO, which is the largest conglomerate fucking unions in the United States. How are you going to say it's just corporate Dems that oppose this? Dude, this is such a shitty fucking... I hate this guy so much.
actually the policies that are kicking them out of office and earning their more progressive counterparts a spot at
Damn, the microphone was off. This is why I quit. This is why I quit. I'm not saying that again. That was some good insight too. I really did go crazy right there, bro. I really did go crazy right there. I heard a beat come in the background. I was freestyling. The point is, I said, if you commercialize policies like Medicare for All or Green New Deal, it makes them harder to attack and to detach them from reality. If you take the Green New Deal, which is an umbrella term for many policies, and you say, hey, we're going to do solar panels. We're going to give jobs to rural America building solar panels. We're going to put Americans to work cleaning waterways and cleaning mountains up. And we're going to put America to work cleaning national parks. We're going to put Americans to work building windmills. If you say those policy pinpoints, it's a lot harder for somebody else to villainize it and to distract away from what you actually want to do.
At the table.
Yeah, okay.
That being
I'm
said,
sad. I'm so
progressive
sad now.
politicians regularly find
So
themselves
depressed.
defanged by
I
their
have to
corporate
quit.
counterparts.
It's
Over
over.
time,
Corporate counterparts.
they are assimilated into the centrist fold with every concession to the party's elite.
Oh yeah, all my videos are gone because I'm doing a rebranding.
So, while electoral politics do provide some short-term gains, most notably starting the radicalization process of many apathetic Americans, actual change will
I'm
only
probably not going to put a video up of my reaction to this because I don't think this is my best work. I think I did pretty bad with this content. I might leave I don't even know, dude. I
Some
don't know what's
short-term
happening.
gains.
I have all these ideas for content, but I just kind of fall apart
Most
sometimes,
notably,
you know?
starting
I'm
the
busy,
radicalization
busy,
process of
busy
many
guy.
apathetic Americans,
Busy guy.
actual change will only come from popular grassroots movements. If you're looking for ways to get involved, see if any groups near you are looking for help. Joining your local chapter of a national group like the DSA, or any of the several left-wing political parties, or your city's mutual aid collective can have a bigger impact than you think. The main takeaway is this. The United States is run by a two-party corporate duopoly. Both the Republicans and the Democrats are beholden
A two-party corporate duopoly.
to the same corporate interests, and both
That isn't even true in the sense of what the term duopoly means.
parties are dedicated to the maintenance
That
of the
doesn't
untenable
make
and
sense,
increasingly
my
dystopian
brother.
neoliberal status quo. Both our major parties are right-wing. This trend will only continue to get worse until the left, the real left, can mount an effective opposition to this deeply flawed and inhumane political project. If we want to make real, positive, lasting change, if we want to safeguard future generations against climate fallout, if
Because they don't do the same thing.
we want to stop the inevitable
they don't have the
transformation of
same
neoliberalism
audience.
into outright fascism, we have our work cut out for us. So let's get to work.
Just like the
I
corpos in
mentioned at the
Cyberpunk.
beginning of this
I can't believe this channel is over a million subs.
Cyberpunk.
Like, this is like the most shallow level. Like, there is no real analysis here, right? If this is an essay, which it's arguably presented as an essay, we don't
Will I
even...
make an archive? Maybe. I don't know. I don't like any of my content, so I was gonna pick only stuff that I liked, but I realized I hate everything I make, so I didn't keep anything.
get like good arguments. It's just like, here's a bunch of shit you already agree with. I'm not gonna like actually put forth any controversial or strong statement or defend with any fact. Like, here's just a collection of things that has happened. Here's like the argument I'm putting forward. Like, soy guy, soy, yeah, soy, yeah, soy, yeah. Like, this is actually...
The plan would be, if I have something that I think is really good content, where I speak really well and effectively, and I pinpoint my words where I want them, I would put it on my main channel. I want to make sure when I'm looking for jobs and stuff that there's no dumb shit like Tom McDonald reactions, that people are going to see me acting like an idiot, saying a bunch of weird stuff, okay? I want to make sure everything I put on my main channel is like actual stuff, and I want to make sure I don't say anything dumb. I'm learning a lot about life right now, okay? And about how I should approach political topics. So ideally, I'd put good debate reviews and good debates on my Jolah channel. I'd have a Jolah 2 channel for lesser content, maybe some dumb debate reviews, maybe Tom McDonald videos. So that'd be Jolah 2. And then my third channel, Break the Cycle, I'd put regular news stories on. Now, I can try to do Jolah content for the next couple months, but I'm busy until December. After the first week of December, I have tons of free time. So at that point, I'll be able to do more consistent stuff, hopefully for all three channels.
This is in its purest form. This is in its purest form. I think it's political propaganda. Like, it has absolutely no substance. 2,991 Patreons. Income hidden, of course. This guy has a second channel where he drives expensive cars. Wait, no way. Link me. I don't
Yeah,
believe
this
you. Wait,
was funny.
does he actually? No shot. Link or ban. Wait, no. No way, dude. This is not real. Hold on. No possible.
That sounds difficult. Yeah, right now I have about an hour a day. My channel isn't connected to my IRL identity. It's not, but there's like, I just don't, it's still out there. Definitive or strong arguments from me. The issue is I'm not confident enough to make videos like that. If I get really confident about a policy or about something, that's cool, but I need to do debate or like reaction content because I can sort of correct other people where they're getting it wrong and where they can improve on it. And I can talk about dumb, easy, commercialized topics instead of getting into the nitty-gritty. Maybe I'll make videos like that eventually. I'm just not ready for it yet. I'm not gonna make a bunch of Kyle Kalinske videos either. I have too much pride to just go on camera for 12 minutes and rant about stuff I don't know about.
Excuse guys, don't mind us. They come through.
Just coming through enough. Also, the headlights and the back tail lights. Yeah, both of them.
As opposed to
are
front tail
shaped.
lights.
Yeah, whatever. Shut up. They're shaped in swoopies.
Yeah, the McLaren
like
swoopy.
McLaren swoop.
The engine compartment back behind us is completely open.
It's totally see-through. It's just
No,
not
I have bigger goals than that.
If you've been on the channel for a while,
I really got this is done. I really got inspired by, this one guy from TP USA came around, and the way they organize, the way they speak. I want to make sure. One second. So my new philosophy has a couple rules to it. Positivity and treating people like human beings is the only thing that works. You should never burn any bridges. You should make sure you are able to maintain connections. People are not evil fascists or racists or whatever. There are very few people who are very thought out in how they think and how they feel about certain issues and how they in how they live their daily lives. Even Republican politicians that I meet, they genuinely have their own moral system and stuff they're operating on. You need to be able to connect to as many people as possible. And your rhetoric needs to be about addition, not subtraction, not anger, always about building. So I want to make sure that when I'm making content about this stuff, that I'm being very understanding of everybody's perspective, that I'm not going to be seeing a politician do something like near where I live and being like, hey, I hate this person, they're evil, because life is more complicated. So I want to make sure that everything I do now is a lot more focused and, I'm learning, I'm leveling up again. I've leveled up a couple times over the past couple of years, but right now I'm taking a big turn for something that can be very viable in the real world. Connections are all that matters. You need people to have your back. You need to be able to form a coalition and a group of people who can fight for you and what you believe in as well. It's hard, it's complicated, but I need to be able to keep myself on an even head as I do it. So I'm not going to go on here and yell a bunch of stuff about government, especially because if I talk to somebody in government, I'll probably look like an idiot. That's what happens all the time. If I make any type of assumptions about anything. You know what happens when you assume things? No, I'm not like Booksmarts. He's an internet boy. But Booksmarts ghosted me. Does anybody know what assumption or does anybody know before I leave? Does anybody know what happens when you assume things? What happens when you assume things? Without knowing. What's the dad joke? Does anybody know the dad joke? Like for XP? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for liking. Somebody say it. What does it mean when you assume something? What happens when you assume something? Look at those new badges, by the way. The new member badges. Cloud, you have a different colored member badge. Spencer got it. Spencer, let's go. Oh, you said it too? Let's go. I don't see all the chats. My thing's messed up. Oh, a lot of people said it. Crap, I was looking at top chats, not live chat. Dang it. I hate this new YouTube feature. I need a better way to get chat on screen. I'll fix that then. Sorry. But yeah, you a lot of you got it. You making it when you assume things, you make an ass out of you and me. Yes, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy. So Cloud, there's different members badges now for how much time you're subscribed for. So you have the regular one with the purple outline if you're here for like 1 month or 3 months. But if you're here for 6 months or more, you get the blue one, the bright blue one. If you're here for like a year, I think you get the gold one. I think there's like a gold medal member button. I think that's how that works. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I gotta go do some things. Thank you guys for hanging out. This has been a good faith criticism of Destiny and Second Thought. Fun talking to you guys. Thanks for all the super chats. I'm not muted. Can you hear me? If anybody wants to become a member, it's $1 a month to support my coffee in the morning. All right. Everybody have a good one. Have a good one. Spread some positivity. Open a door for somebody. Smile. Listen to some happy music. Make small talk with an old person who seems lonely. Shed your little bit of brightness on the world. And you will feel that brightness right back at you. All right. I thought you were here a year, Cloud. Almost. I think it's a month or two. But you still have the other blue button. All right. Real life lore guy. Oh, really? All right. This is stopping. Stop recording. Stop.